Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News at 6. Thanks for watching. Here's what's making news tonight. A community is in mourning after the tragic loss of a joyful teen. Plus, a look at retail thefts and how different police services are handling reports. And a very special graduation at Caldwell First Nation. We'll tell you more about what made this one an important celebration. A community is in mourning after the death of a Harrow teen who had Down syndrome. The 16-year-old died after being hit by a vehicle last weekend. And as Dawson Chen reports, he is remembered for being joyful with a passion for baseball.
Soham Lane loved to hit home runs. The 16-year-old Harrow resident is being honored by the Miracle League of Amherstburg, an organization for people with disabilities that Soham participated in since the age of 4.
You could see it in his eyes. His face when he crosses home plate each and every time he hits the ball is what I envisioned the Miracle League to be about. He's got a huge smile. His hands are up in the air. It's just pure joy. That's what it is.
Soham died after being struck by a vehicle on County Road 18 on the morning of October 6. The collision happened within walking distance of his home. OPP said their investigation continues, but charges aren't anticipated. Soham was an adopted child and the eldest of 5 kids. Along with his loving parents, siblings, and extended family, he had the love of a second family. That's because of his best friend since childhood, Tommy Wright.
They had a bond like no other. It was more than a friendship. I'm sorry, I'm going to get emotional. It was more than a friendship, more like brothers.
With Tommy by his side, Soham had countless adventures, from sporting events to play dates to cottage vacations. Now many members of community organizations are joining in the two families' grief. From the Windsor-Essex Down Syndrome Association to the County Learning Center, everyone was fond of Soham Lane.
He's such a fun-loving little guy, enjoys life to the fullest, always up for an adventure to have fun. Soham wasn't as verbal as Tommy is, and so Tommy led him through a lot of their activities and a lot of their social outings together. So those were 2 words that were very distinct with Soham, and he would often say, "Ball, Tommy, ball, Tommy." And that meant, I want to go see Tommy and I want to go play baseball.
The Miracle League of Amherstburg is distributing a special baseball card for Soham Lane, describing him as a Hall of Famer and an All-Star. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
For a 6-month span, Windsor had the highest unemployment rate in the country, but that run is over, according to the latest numbers from Statistics Canada. The city's unemployment rate fell in September. While it's no longer number 1, the rate is still high, slipping from 9.2% to 8.9%. And compare that to the national average of 6.5%. The title for the highest jobless rate in the country now goes to Edmonton. Let's turn to a day of celebration at Caldwell First Nation. 6 of its members graduated from a heavy equipment training program today. It's the first graduation of its kind at Caldwell, and it marks a milestone for the community that only recently reclaimed its land. Dale Molnar reports.
The 6 men who took the heavy equipment operating course are all members of the Caldwell First Nation, but one of the 2 who are employees at the reserve is not Indigenous. They all received certificates today as part of their graduation from the 5-week course sponsored by the reserve and Indigenous Services Employment and Training Canada. Colin Chambers is an instructor with the Canada Heavy Equipment College, which trained the men. He says the training gives them basic skills they can use in the construction trades both on and off the reserve.
So they typically would be given, some of the procedures that you saw them demonstrating today, basic leveling or maybe digging a trench.
For Matthew Lawrence, this is something he's always wanted to do.
And just to be around in the industry and to learn. So this is like the first step of that process. And yeah, I'm just really thankful.
Part of how these men will approach their work will entail their spiritual beliefs and their respect for the land. Darlene Marshall, the education manager, says they will be mindful of the environment.
Our operator trainees now understand the significance of what they're doing when it comes to moving earth and Nimana Aki, which is our Mother Earth.
Chief Nikki Van Oorschot says that extends to respecting the ancestors too.
And the other thing that we're mindful of is artifacts that may be found on this land because it was occupied by our people.
For 56-year-old Sean Duckworth, having mindful Indigenous people doing construction work on the reserve is important.
I feel fabulous. I'm just excited about doing our own work instead of having to wait for other people to do it.
The equipment receives an Indigenous blessing, and besides the usual equipment, sweetgrass came along on James Cervini's rig for religious reasons.
It's one of the medicines, and we like to bring them in to help clear the air and essentially make good feelings, you know what I mean? It helps.
Keep you safe?
Well, as much as it can.
After this class, the Caldwell First Nation is hoping to run another program like it in the future, perhaps one for women only. For some of the men here, this is the first certificate they've ever received, and they will go on to further their educations as well. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Caldwell First Nation.
The Windsor Police Service says it will stop accepting theft reports from some retailers. That's if they have no interest in cooperating with police. It's different from what some other police services do in Ontario. And as the CBC's Jason Vio tells us, the move is raising some questions.
Retail theft is on the rise here in Windsor and in many parts of this country. Some of those stores do report those thefts to Windsor Police, but have no interest in cooperating after that point. But Windsor Police says they'll now stop accepting those reports. But experts say that's a problem because police have a duty to accept all reports of crime. It would skew the number of true thefts in our community, and it also gives police data on what's happening and where.
I would say Windsor Police can't make that call, and I'd say that frankly. Citizens have a right to report a crime, and police have a right to receive that crime. That's their duty.
But it appears Windsor Police has already made the change. On the Windsor Police website, it prevents you from reporting a retail theft if you won't press charges or provide a witness statement.
We're not going to be accepting any complaints that nobody wants to do anything about.
We did ask for more information about this decision over the course of the last month, but our emails did go unanswered. We do know, though, last month there was a small bump in reported thefts locally, and then in June, Windsor Police did say there was one unnamed retailer that made up 30% of the overall retail theft complaints, and they had no interest in cooperating.
We're looking to do more and better with our time.
And the approach by Windsor Police to not accept reports of thefts in those instances is different than some other services in Ontario. Toronto says they'll accept all reports of theft even if a retailer doesn't want to help. Essex County OPP says they do as well, saying companies may want a police report for insurance purposes. And Ottawa Police says it too accepts all theft reports and only investigates the ones where the retailer is cooperative. Meanwhile, one statistical sciences professor at the University of Toronto says Windsor's decision will bias reported crime stats by impacting the accuracy and underestimating the true number of retail thefts in our community. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
Windsor Police tweeted this afternoon saying they will take theft complaints through their retail theft coordinator for the purpose of collecting statistics. Now, some who chose to look up at the skies last night were in for a treat. A solar storm put the northern lights on full display. Harrow photographer Donnie Moore keeps a close watch on the aurora forecasts. He ventured out with his gear to capture a stunning scene.
Last night was easily the best because it was such a big event that didn't matter where you were, especially with your phone cameras, you would have got to see somewhat of it. Obviously, where I set up, that actual grain elevator, I've been shooting it for the owners since I started building it in the spring. Just the experience in Northern Lights, seeing it over the lake is fantastic. But as a photographer, trying to set up scenes to try and bring some other elements into the photo, that's what I was thinking when I was leaving the house last night. I was going, and I initially didn't think of that silo just because where it's located. And it's just north of McGregor. When about 10:15, the purples and the pinks just started to light up, and then your eyes can sort of focus on the greens a little bit. They become like a misty kind of cloud looking. But as that progressed with that huge area of flare up, it was just fantastic. And we continued shooting until around about midnight, and it did get better. There's little waves of it came. So anybody who stayed up really late would have experienced more than that there.
Chris Potter joins us now for a look at our weather forecast. Now, Chris, I missed out on the lights last night. I checked, I looked in my backyard, I didn't see anything, but I'm hoping we got some good conditions for tonight.
And it's still going to be a visible night tonight for the aurora. Unfortunately, that view line, Kat, is going to be a little bit further to the north. It looks like Goderich over to the GTA and across the northern shores of Lake Ontario and northward. So there's still a possibility across southern Ontario to see it. I just don't think it's going to be as dramatic, if you will, as it was last night. In terms of the temperatures, normal daytime high for this time of year in Windsor is around 17 degrees, close to 25 for the daytime high today. And we're still holding on at 24 in Windsor, 19 in London, 21 in Toronto, 16 in Ottawa. So temperatures are a touch above where they should be, and that's pretty universal across much of this forecast region. In terms of closer to home, temperatures vary anywhere from 19 to 24. Not much in terms of active weather. Over lower Michigan, there is a little line of rain and a few thunderstorms that will wander southward. As that happens, it will continue to kind of break apart, so it doesn't look like that will have an influence on the weather across southwestern Ontario, at least tonight. As we step forward into the day tomorrow, we'll start off with mostly sunshine for most areas. Once we get into the afternoon, we'll start to see a little bit more cloud move in, and although it's not going to be widespread, a couple of hit or miss showers will be moving in for the late afternoon, but it's by the evening that we start to see more widespread, steadier rainfall. That will edge off towards the east before daybreak on your Sunday, and we'll start off with a fair amount of cloud. There will be a few hit or miss showers out there, nothing dramatic, so it's looking like a grayer weather day, a little bit cooler as well. As we step forward into Monday to wrap up the long weekend, cooler still. Daytime highs in some areas might be held in the single digits, and we do cloud over from time to time, and there will be once again some scattered shower activity. And I'll point out an area as well to the north, a little bit of blue that represents the chance of a little bit of wet snow mixing in. Not for your region, don't worry. Temperatures tonight anywhere from 8 in London thanks to the clear skies. The winds become more northerly. Temperatures anywhere from 12 to 14 degrees through the southwest. As we get into the day tomorrow, mid to high teens expected. Once again, a slight chance for a few passing showers. Not an all-day long rain event by any means, so it's not going to be a washout, but a little unsettled. Same story into Sunday with highs around 15. Overnight low down towards 7. 12 for us Monday to wrap up the long weekend. And then we get back down to 4 for the overnight Monday night and into Tuesday morning. Tuesday is going to be the cooler of the days, Kat, with highs barely at 10 degrees. Then we start to warm back up with lots of sunshine for Wednesday with the highs near 13. So like I said, to begin this, Kat, Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights as it's most commonly referred to as, it's still going to be possible to see it tonight. But as we get into tomorrow night, that line, that view line, will continue to migrate northward. So hopefully you still get a chance.
Thanks for that, Chris. Really appreciate it.
You got it.
Let's take a live look outside there. And you know what? I am going to brace my expectations, and maybe I won't see the lights tonight, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to step outside. I'm going to look up and hope for the best. Stay with us. After the break, we'll have national and international news for you. Welcome back. The National Pharmacare bill has passed and become law. It will initially focus on providing free diabetes and birth control medications, but as Kate McKenna reports, there are still more steps before it actually takes effect.
For New Brunswick resident Roger Cook, diabetes is part of life.
Right now, my sugars are running a little high, and that's because I just get done lunch.
He pays about $250 per month for medications. He's hoping soon that'll be one less thing to worry about.
I do have a young daughter, and this is going to help me focus with her educations and her needs.
This is a big deal and great news for many Canadians.
Canada's Pharmacare bill has now become law.
Folks, I'm actually very excited.
It was a condition of the now defunct deal between the Liberals and the NDP.
We have been able to achieve something New Democrats have fought for generations.
This iteration of Pharmacare would cover drugs for diabetics and contraception, billed as the first step in a broader Pharmacare program. But first, Ottawa must strike deals with provinces.
Now, we need the provinces and territories to come to the table and sign agreements with us.
Some provinces like Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec say they're not sold, saying healthcare is their jurisdiction. But Canada's health minister says he thinks he can get deals done by spring.
Can we not agree that everybody deserves the medication that they need?
Cook says he hopes politicians come together to find solutions.
I think it's very important because the diabetes the rates aren't going lower, cases are growing bigger, and the cost of everything is going up. And it's a shame that people have to substitute other things that are essentials for medicine.
But Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre doesn't support this Pharmacare law, saying it risks hurting private plans, costing a lot of money, and being mired in bureaucracy. Meaning even if the current government does negotiate deals with provinces, the future of this program is uncertain. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Police near Montreal have arrested a woman in connection to an incident where a 10-year-old boy was scalded with boiling water. And a caution first, some viewers may find this content disturbing. The woman allegedly threw boiling water at the boy when he was walking by her home with friends after school. The 46-year-old was initially arrested and released on October 2nd after it happened at a multi-residential building. She made a court appearance today and is now formally charged with aggravated assault. Turning now to the crisis in the Middle East. The Lebanese army says 2 of its soldiers were killed and 3 injured in an Israeli airstrike. It was near a checkpoint about 80 kilometers south of Beirut earlier today. And there was an overnight airstrike on the central part of the capital. Lebanese health officials say at least 22 people were killed with nearly 120 wounded. The targeting is a shift away from Beirut's southern suburbs, where Israel has focused nearly all of its operations in the capital in recent weeks. And for the second time in 2 days, UN peacekeepers in Lebanon have come under fire. Israeli forces hit the main base of the UN's peacekeeping mission. 2 Indonesian soldiers were injured. Israel says it was inadvertent and it is investigating. Yesterday, a UN watchtower was hit. A group pushing for the abolition of nuclear weapons has won this year's Nobel Peace Prize, but it's a peace group far different from most. Its core members survived 2 of the most controversial attacks in the history of warfare, the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The CBC's Anna Cunningham reports.
It's a grassroots organisation that was formed 11 years after the end of World War II to support survivors from the 1945 atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which we know killed an estimated 200,000 people. Now, those survivors are also known as Hibakusha. The chair of the Nobel Committee, Jürgen Watne-Fridnes, explained why the group had been chosen. Take a listen.
The Hibakusha helps us describe the indescribable, to think the unthinkable, and to grasp the incomprehensible pain and suffering caused by nuclear weapons.
The group represents survivors who not only suffered the physical effects of radiation, but also social stigma, and many over the years have travelled around the world sharing their stories and experiences and calling for the world to be rid of nuclear weapons. Take a look at this. This was the moment the news reached them that they had won. There was disbelief and certainly emotion from the group's chair, Toshiyuki Mimaki, a man who witnessed Hiroshima when he was just 3 years old. Now, at first he said this can't be real, but then he went on to call for the world to abolish nuclear weapons and achieve an everlasting peace. We know that those nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, their names remain sealed for 50 years, but there certainly are always guesses. And this year's choice of winner is a safe one. It's less controversial than some of those who had been mentioned and talked about potentially the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, or UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. But it is no less a pointed choice at a time when headlines are dominated by conventional conflicts in the Middle East and Ukraine, both involving the threat of the use of nuclear weapons. Nihon Hidankyo, in winning this year's Nobel Peace Prize, not only has it won the equivalent of 1.5 million Canadian dollars to fund its work, but it now also has a global platform to pursue its message, calling for nuclear weapons to be abolished. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
When we come back, we'll have the latest from Tesla. Stay with us. Elon Musk was in front of the cameras again last night, this time introducing the latest from Tesla, a driverless car. But while Musk is predicting a fast track to production, the markets and some experts are sounding cautious. The CBC's Nisha Patel reports.
This is Tesla's Cybercab, a prototype with no steering wheels or pedals. CEO Elon Musk says the electric vehicle can drive itself.
I think it's going to be a glorious future. It's going to be really something special.
At a flashy launch event, Musk suggested the fully autonomous Cybercab would cost $30,000 and laid out his production timeline.
Well, I tend to be a little optimistic with timeframes, but in 2026. So, yeah, before 2027. Let me put it that way.
The company's vehicles do already have some self-driving features. This Tesla enthusiast says the technology is impressive.
So you could be in a Costco parking lot and summon the car to come over to you driverless, and it will do that.
Still, he didn't think Tesla's showcase lived up to the hype.
And I believe that if they spent some of their time and energy and money on a vehicle more for the populace, it would have benefited everybody.
Some investors and analysts said Musk's presentation lacked concrete details, and Tesla stock sank 8%. Driverless cars like these from Alphabet's Waymo are already on the road in the U.S. Even then, experts say widespread adoption is a long way off.
The advances will come, but we don't know. I mean, they are currently not yet there, but maybe they will be in 5 years, maybe in 10 years.
And companies still face huge safety and regulatory hurdles.
But this is safety critical. This is a vehicle. If it makes a mistake, runs a red light, people get killed.
So while Musk's vision is ambitious, it's not clear how quickly he can navigate the roadblocks. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
A rare work by Claude Monet has been returned to the descendants of its rightful owners more than 80 years after it was stolen by the Nazis. A Jewish couple stored it in a warehouse to be sent to them after they were forced to flee Austria by the Nazi annexation in 1938. But the Monet and their other artworks were seized by the Gestapo and vanished. The couple's granddaughters were reunited with the missing Monet this week after the people who bought it at an exhibit in 2016 realized it was listed by the FBI and returned it. The pastel, called Bord de Mer, dates back to 1865. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For more, you can go to cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend and a very happy Thanksgiving.